broadcasting. Touchdowns. Shut your mouth, broadcasting. First round draft pick. Believe we got stats, kid. Quarterback stacking. 100-yard dashing. So tap in for the action. What teams got traction?
Welcome to the Sim Podcast Show. I'm your co-host Eric, and I'm always joined by my co-host Ron. What up, Ron?
What's going on?
You know what we do? We talk about the NFL on a weekly basis, including the playoffs. Ron, we are entering week 17. 2 games left to the season.
No.
It's been bad for the Pats, but how has it been for the Steelers?
Not as good as we expected, I would think. But we're still in the hunt, for the playoffs, so I'm not going to complain too much.
Listen, you can't complain because it's regular football. This is football. This is what it is. This is what week to week we do this. We talk about NFL. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. That's just what it is. I can't really complain. I mean, I can complain as a Patriots fan, but not as a football fan. I think.
Yeah.
Except for the refs. Fuck the refs. Let's talk about the NFL news. We'll talk about week 16. We'll do our upset specials, our power rankings, and we'll do our predictions. But first, let's talk about NFL news. Ron, and I told you I was going to be honest with you. There wasn't a lot to report. I think a lot of people are on vacation. They're just like, I'm with my family. What the hell am I going to, report this? But I did find a lot of injuries. And Trevor Lawrence got a bum ankle. Will this make or break Jacksonville?
Yeah, I would think so, right? You need your quarterback out there these last 2 games. You're still fighting for a playoff spot. You haven't clinched anything just yet. You need to have him out there. So, I don't, we'll see how it goes. I think you said they got Carolina this week. Should be a winnable game, regardless of who you throw out there. But you just never know. They haven't really been playing that well either. So,
Yeah, they lost 4 games in a row already. I mean, they're giving this division away.
Yeah.
And we just talked about the Houston Texans might not have the quarterback this week. So, would you say it's the Colts division to lose now?
I don't know about that either. I think it's just up in the air. I think all of these teams are trying to figure out one way or another how to lose it. So,
I mean, the AFC South and the NFC South, those are 8 teams that you're just like, you don't know what you're going to get week to week.
Yeah.
I mean, except for Carolina, that team is just terrible. But every other team, you're just like, what are you giving? What are you getting? What's the issue here? I don't know. It's just up and down. Ron, the other injury is Hockenson as an MCL. Is the Vikings season done?
Yeah, it's a big loss for them too. They need him obviously for their push to the playoffs. So that is a big loss. And I think that if I'm not mistaken, Addison's hurt too, or he got hurt that last game. I don't know how serious it is, but you got to have your best guys out there down the stretch to have a chance when you're sitting, right below 500 or at 500 at this point. So, yeah, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt them for sure.
I personally think that they're done. I mean, we were just saying how they already lost 2 in a row, and that game they're playing Cincinnati. Or was it Cincinnati last week?
Last week.
Yeah, it was last week. It was Cincinnati, and this week it was Detroit. And Detroit, I wouldn't say that they lay down a smackdown, but I mean, not being Detroit in your division, that's a big loss. So I don't know if they can bounce back. And we'll talk about what the playoff picture would look like. But any other news that was worth mentioning to you?
Yeah, I think that was.
Yeah, it was just a lot of injuries. That's what I have to report. So Ron, let's quickly recap week 16. Let's go to New England at Denver. I had them winning 24-14. You had them losing 24-17. Ron, I told you, if Sappy can just put two halves together. I'm not saying that he did that because he was terrible that first half, but he finally figured out how to put two and two together. That fumble by Denver helped a lot. But a win is a win. Can't complain. A win is a win. 26-23 was the final. Ron, what did Denver do wrong?
I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I didn't get to watch much of this game. I can tell you what the Pats did wrong, which is win the game. If you're trying to tank at this point and get a quarterback.
But we just talked about that tanking is not in their DNA. We can talk about tanking, but it's not going to happen with them.
Okay. Well, I don't know what Denver did wrong. I know they are on the outside right now looking up, if they're trying to get to the playoffs too. So here's the thing. Patriots have always had a good defense, right? So not surprised it was a bit of a challenge. I picked Denver, to win, but I knew New England's defense would give them a little bit of trouble. So looking at the stats, I don't see anything that stands out. Looks like Russell played fairly well.
No, he played really good.
So,
I mean, he had two scores in the third that helped them get back in the game.
Mm-hmm.
I just wish that they would have done that the whole game.
4 fumbles though. Yikes.
Yeah, the fumbles were a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't say that it was unfixable, right? So, yeah, they basically went in there and they won. They beat Sappy, played his game. He had a better QBR rating than Wilson. So, I'm happy for them because at least, the coach gets another victory closer to Don Shula's record. So, I'm not mad at all.
Mm-hmm.
This is what they're supposed to be doing, winning football game. So I'm not mad at all. If you want me to fist my hand against the table and be like, oh, I'm so mad. Now they're not in the top 3 of drafts. You know what? If Bill Belichick stays there, he's going to be like, you know what? This team needs a tackle. This team needs a wide receiver. There's other needs than just having a good QB.
I agree.
Yeah.
But, you're right there at the front of the draft. A good chance to go, and there's some good players out there, right? So they can't mess this up, I don't think. I think we all know that neither Zappy or Mac Jones is the answer. So they're going to be looking for a quarterback, whether it's their first round or somewhere in the draft. You got to make sure you're in the right position to choose the guy that you want.
No, I think that a couple of weeks ago I mentioned if they finish in the top 5, they'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you going to do is they have Buffalo next week. So are they going to win that game? Remains to be seen. Because I don't know if it's at home or it's at Buffalo. We'll talk about it when that game comes to fruition. Ron, Pittsburgh at Cincinnati. I had them winning 14-10. You had them losing 28-13. Final score was 34-11. Ron, are you shocked?
Yes.
Because
the whole entire world is shocked.
You don't think that they can repeat that?
No. Listen, so I'll say this, right? It was a pleasant surprise. It was great to see the offense look competent, for the first time all season. They did a good job. Mason was great. 17-27, 290 yards. Higgins played his ass off. Here's the thing, right? They benefited by playing a team that was reeling, had a lot of injuries, right? Jamar Chase didn't play. Browning turned the ball over 3 times. You just can't do that. So, and then they were at home, right? So this week they go to Seattle. It's going to be a lot different. We'll talk more about that when we get to week 17. But I don't know if it's repeatable, but I'm happy for Mason. I'm happy for the Steelers, obviously. And I'm happy, the Steelers are still in it. So I'm not going to complain at all.
Well, I told you that, I wanted to see more from Jake Browning before I started crowning him. Like the media does all the time. They just put a crown on people and be like, oh, he's great. Oh, he can do this. But you know,
He
the
still torched
Steelers.
us. 330 yards. He torched us.
Yeah, but the Steelers did that whole like bend but don't break. Yes, have tons of yards, but you're not gonna score. And like you mentioned, it was a home game, so I wanted to see them do it on the road. 42 passes is a lot, though, especially for someone who's not considered a starter. So
yeah, well, they were down early, like was 24-0 at half. So they had no choice but kind of abandon the run second half, try to get back into the game. They just couldn't.
And it was almost like they were telepathically saying T. Higgins, because Jamar Chase was absent for this game. So there was a one-trick pony is what I'm trying to say. Like, once you figure out that they're going to go to that one guy all the time, I mean, he had 8 targets and completed 5 passes. So, yeah, this is what I expected. That's why I picked the Steelers to win the game.
Yeah, but you didn't expect 34 more. Sure.
No, I mean, I expected, 14-10.
Exactly.
So I wanted the defense to step up. They did. Cincinnati only scored 11 points, so Steelers defense is still stout defense. Ron, who was your upset special?
Yeah, so I had Baltimore at San Francisco. San Francisco is favored by 5.5 when we made the selection. So I had Baltimore winning 23-21, and they demolished San Francisco 33-19. I don't know what else to say about Baltimore. I've been on them the entire year. They've been in my top 5 the entire year. I think every single week. They're a great football team. They don't get the attention. I think they're starting to now, but they haven't been getting any of the attention that they should. You and I haven't sat and talked about Lamar being an MVP candidate. He has to be at the front line, or I'd say in the top 3 at this point of an MVP candidate. I don't think we had him there at all before. No one mentioned that he would be there. But what else can you ask him to do? What else can you ask the team to do? They have just been unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, it's all ebbs and flows of the season, right? And I feel like Baltimore is a hot team, so yes, Lamar should be spoken as MVP candidate, especially after that performance that Brock Purdy put on against Baltimore. So yes, I think that even the odds makers are like, last week he was plus 500. This week he's minus 160. So yeah, I can see why that one game is basically gonna shape up. And they still have Christian McCaffrey basically number 2, but he's like plus 325. So they obviously don't think that he can win. If you're like a betting man and you're like, oh, plus 325, that is a lot of money. But listen, you should not be talking about Brock Purdy. Like, and I feel like,
what do you mean? Like, as an MVP?
As an MVP candidate.
Listen, here's the thing, right? People, especially the media, we tend to overreact. When he plays well, team wins, everyone wants to put him in the MVP category. But at the same time, when he plays bad, he had a really bad game, he played a really good defensive team, they want to say he's terrible. He's not terrible. He's a good quarterback. I've always said that. He's just not I don't think he's a great quarterback. I think he's a good quarterback in a great system. And that, by the way, is enough to win the Super Bowl. So I'm not counting them out just yet. I think they went up against the Super Bowl contender in the AFC, and I've said that all season. I thought they would be in the Super Bowl. So I think with a rematch, if they were both to get back there, it can go either way. I can see San Francisco beating Baltimore if they were to play again. So I think, for this specific game, I don't know if you want to talk too much about the game, but I don't think San Francisco came out with the right game plan. I was screaming at the television for them to run the ball. Why are you throwing so much at the beginning of the game? Run the ball. McCaffrey's a good running back. You gave him a few carries and you did okay, but you just got to keep feeding him, right? So, and run with Debo too. Run the ball. Don't try to throw against Baltimore. That you're playing into their hand. They're a very good defensive unit. and they'll force you into mistakes. And that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Baltimore defense, they've only given up 244 points all year, which is, they're plus 173s. And, except for Miami and maybe Buffalo, everyone else, it's not triple digits. So they have a really good offense and they have a really good defense. They basically have a good combination that you are basically saying, hey, this team can be anybody at home or away. So, yeah, Baltimore is definitely, when we do the power rankings, we'll show that they're up there. For my upset special, because I was wishful thinking, I thought Carolina could beat Green Bay 17-14. Final score was 33-30 Green Bay, and it wasn't really that close to the very, very end. But Carolina the defense is just not good, and Bryce Young still developing. So yeah, it was worth a shot, but does it really matter now? Because I was like, well, if New England wins, because Carolina need to win, or they need to lose, or it didn't matter, because now we're in fourth place. So before we go into week 17, Ron, who's in your power ranking?
All right, so nothing really changed as far as my top five. It's just the order is a little bit different. So last week I had San Francisco at number 1, Baltimore at number 2. This week I have that flip. Baltimore at 1, San Francisco at 2, Miami at 3. There were 3 last week. Dallas at 4. There were 4 last week, and then Detroit rounding out my top 5. So I didn't drop San Francisco too far. Like I said, I still think they'll be in the Super Bowl. They just ran against a good team with the wrong game plan. I think they'll adjust. I didn't move Miami, and I didn't drop Dallas, too much either. So, because they lost to Miami, right? You faced a really good team. You lost, I think, by 2 points or something like that. So I didn't necessarily drop them, and I didn't move Philly up just yet, even though they won, because that game that they won was still questionable, whether they would win or not. So they still got to prove some things to me that they belong in the top 5. Same with some other teams like Kansas City. They look terrible. There's a lot of teams, I think, that are right on that 6, 7, 8 bubble. But those are my top 5: Baltimore, San Fran, Miami, Dallas, and Detroit.
Yeah, I basically have the same teams as you, except I dropped Kansas City from 5th and I put Cleveland in there. I have Baltimore as number 1 with Miami as number 2, Philly at 3, San Francisco at 4, and then I have Cleveland. Cleveland, I don't know how they're doing it, because they have a great defense, but then they have a quarterback that
they're surviving his turnovers. He's doing some good things. Don't get me wrong.
I mean, 265 yards passing to just one guy. You have to get some lucky breaks for that to happen. And I just feel like, I heard some chatter about making Stefanski coach of the year. But then, who's his competition for coach of the year?
I mean,
the Detroit, because it's been 30 years since they won the division.
Detroit, Baltimore. Do we ignore what Baltimore is doing?
I don't know, because I don't know. Is it coaches, because coaches get challenged, or if you have a really good team like Baltimore, doesn't really matter because you have a good team. So I don't know.
But they've been no one's rooted for them or saw them as like legitimate Super Bowl contenders, right? For the most part, the national media has kind of put them as that like second or even third tier to teams like Kansas City or Miami. And I think it's only now that they're realizing that, Baltimore is a good team. So I'm not saying Baltimore isn't. I'm just saying Harbaugh's done a good job keeping that team focused on winning. And, whatever they're doing, it's been working. So, and it's not to say Stefanski doesn't deserve to be in there. Hey, 10 wins when you're star quarterback. has been out for like multiple weeks now, you're figuring out a way with your defense to stay afloat, stay in contention. That's great. He deserves to be in that conversation too.
I mean, your quarterback's out, your star running back is out. So that's what I'm saying is like, is that why his name is popping up about Coach of the Year? Because
Yeah, it should.
I mean, he's doing more with less, basically what I'm saying. Yeah. So that's why I have him in there as number
Miami
5.
coach too, right? You should be in there.
I mean, if you're having Hard Knocks follow you in season, I don't know. I don't know about that. I feel like you're walking into the hype train. You know, you're like, oh sure, put me on TV every week. Sure, I'll do that. I mean, that's just my take. I don't feel like somebody who loves the limelight as much as that Coach McDaniel does. He really deserves Coach of the Year.
I just don't think he shies away from it. I don't think he loves it. I don't see it that way at all. I just think he doesn't shy away from it.
Well, not shying away is basically saying yes. Because if you say no, this might disrupt my team, then you say no, I don't want Hard Knocks. But I feel like he's open to it. He's like, hey, no, yes, sure, bring in the cameras. Whatever you want to film. You want to film me practicing? You want to film me calling plays? Sure. I feel like, does he have a team that with Super Bowl aspirations?
Of course he does. That's just confident. He's showing, hey, it doesn't matter what you see. I want to show. I'm going to continue to be who I am. Right? I think that just shows confidence in him, who he is, in himself, and and the team. And I think the team sees that and they follow him, and it's been good. Listen, there's been a lot of questions about how good is Tua. Their defense started off the year. I know they had some injuries. They didn't play that well. But I think he's done a pretty outstanding job managing the team.
He's 1-3 against 500 teams. That's his only downfall.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's his only downfall. But, hey, if that's working, keep doing it.
Yeah.
Keep doing it. You're 11-4 right now. Keep doing it. I mean, that's being picky. Saying like, oh, they can't be above 500 teams. Well, they're still doing it, and they just beat Dallas recently. So, let's get into week 17. Ron, first game is New England at Buffalo. It's a 40.5 over and under. Buffalo is favored by 12 points. I got them New England winning 24-23. I just don't believe the hype. That's why I got New England winning. And Sappy, 2 out of 3. Who knew? Who knew he was capable? I guess last year when they were like shouting, Sappy, Sappy, they knew better. Ron, what's your pick?
Yeah, so I got Buffalo winning, but I don't believe that 12-point spread at all. I think that's way too high. I think
way too high.
Two things. One, it's being disrespectful to New England's defense, and I think two, it's over-crediting Buffalo's offense that hasn't played really that well all year. So I got this as a much closer game. I got Buffalo winning 23-20. If I had real money to put down, I would definitely put some money on this New England covering.
Yeah, I definitely think 12 points is way too high, especially when Josh Allen has been turning the ball over almost every game. Mm-hmm. It's guaranteed. And like you said, that New England defense is very stout, considering no edge rusher, no Christian Gonzalez. I mean, he's doing it with like people off the streets. Yeah, I think that they can beat that. That's why I only give them winning by 1 point. It could be, like you said, 3 points makes the difference. So, Pittsburgh at Cincinnati.
Seattle.
Pittsburgh at Seattle. Mm-hmm. They favored by 3.5. Ron, who's your pick?
Yeah, Seattle's favored at 3.5. This game's on the road. At this point, it looks like Mason might be the starter. Tomlin had his press conference today. He was kind of, I guess he played both sides, said Mason's going to get the first team reps, but we'll see how Kenny Pickett's leg is and how his practice week goes. So it can go either way as far as who the starting quarterback is. I think it's going to be Mason. I don't think he relives that magic, though, that he had at home. I think this is a much tougher matchup. A fully healthy, for the most part, Seattle offense is going to be able to score some more points on the Steelers. I got Seattle winning 21-17.
The over and under run is 41.5. I got Pittsburgh winning 21-17. I think this is Geno's return game, right?
No, he played last week.
Oh, he did?
Mm-hmm.
Did they win?
Yeah, they won. I don't think it was anything impressive, but they did win this past week. So, I think they're fully, for the most part, fully healthy. They won 20-17, beat against the Titans. Take that, as you will. But that running game, those two backs they have, and obviously their receivers in Jigba, and Lockett and the other, their star receiver. Can't think of his name right now.
Metcalf.
Metcalf, thank you. That's a lot for any team to handle. So, I'd be shocked if the Steelers win the game.
Ron, who is your upset special?
I went back to Detroit. So they play in Dallas. Dallas favored by 6. This is another game where I'm looking at the spread and it's like, this seems like a lot. I know Detroit's defense is questionable at best, but their offense is pretty dang good and good enough to score at Dallas, in Dallas. And I know Dallas defense is pretty decent, but to me, I can see Detroit winning. I got them winning 28-27. I just, I like the Detroit, coaching staff. I like their players. They got to get better. They're still a young team. But this is going to be a statement game for them.
I like everything you said, except Dallas is 7-0 at home.
Mm-hmm.
The only NFC team that doesn't lose at home. I don't see that happening. Detroit has a lot of heart. Dan Campbell has the boys well coached, but Dallas at home is a different team. They just losing at home is going to be hard for them to allow that.
But let's talk about at home. Let's talk about the teams they beat at home. Right, the Jets. Jets are any good? No. Patriots any good? No. Chargers? Rams okay. Rams are pretty decent. Giants, are they any good? No. Commanders, Seahawks, they're okay. And then the Eagles, that's a good team. So I think they're a good football team. The higher the score of this game, I think the more it's going to favor Detroit, to be honest with you.
I just don't see it. I just don't see them losing at home, but that's what makes the upset so special. It's a Monday night game, right? So, yeah, everyone's going to be seeing prime time. Let's hope that the Lions don't put up a dud, basically, on Monday night. With my upset special, I went with that Giants beating the LA Rams. They were favored by 6 points. I got them winning 24-17. I don't have any stat or any kind of data that I can back up the Giants winning. I just feel like Giants at home, it's a very different team than Giants on the road.
Who's playing quarterback? That's the question.
We don't know.
Yeah.
Because he already said that DeVito needs a break. So it might be, I don't know, Daboll's way of thinking. So I could see Tyrod Taylor coming in, but he's a turnover machine, so I don't know. We'll see how this game turns out, and I feel like the Rams are a little bit of a streak, right? So let's look at the standings real quick. Yeah, so the Rams have won 2 games in a row. They're basically 6-4 in the conference. So, I mean, they definitely want to be in the playoffs, right? That's why they're playing hard. I don't know if the Giants, they might be out. I think they have, they're out already at 5-10. So we'll see. We'll see. Again, I don't have any kind of data to present, but I like the Giants at home. So let's end the show with talk about playoffs, because we got 2 weeks left in the season and it's getting tighter and tighter. So let's look at the AFC. Who, Ron, do you have, and excluding the Steelers, who do you feel has a chance to basically get the remaining spots?
Excluding the Steelers?
Excluding the Steelers.
I think it's up in the air. So there's still some teams fighting for those last 2 spots. Buffalo got the Patriots this week, and I don't know who they finish with, but they, for the most part, control their destiny. If they can win out, they should be able to secure that 6th spot. They got the Dolphins, so that might be a tough matchup, because the Dolphins play the Ravens, if I'm not mistaken, this week, and they're fighting for that 1st seed. It's a big game, right? If the Bills lose to the Patriots this week, they'll be 9-7. They got to play Miami and fall to 9-8. That's going to be tough. So, but I still think they're in. The Colts at 8-7. I give them a better shot at finishing that 7th spot over teams like Houston, Pittsburgh at this point, Cincinnati. They're on the outs at this point.
I wouldn't even say the Colts get the 7. I think they can win that division.
Yeah, they can win the division, right? They might even get over Jacksonville at 8-7 right now and actually get the division. So Jacksonville, you said, has Carolina this week, but we'll see if Lawrence plays or what the deal is there. But then they got the Titans, so they got a pretty easy schedule, if you want to call it that. So, they need to win at least one of those games, if not both. But, in the Steelers, you want me to exclude them, but they're still really in it, right? They win these next 2 games, which is going to be tough. Seattle, and then depending what happens at Baltimore, we got Baltimore at the end. We always play them tough, but they might be sitting players, knock on wood, that last week. If they can win 2 and then they get losses from Jacksonville, Colts, or Texans, they can leapfrog into that 7th spot. So they're not completely out of it either.
So if they, in your estimation, if they lose to Seattle, are they out?
No, it's over. Yeah, it's done. They got to win out, period. They have to win out. So basically,
you like the Steelers, you like the Bills, and the Colts.
Well, I got the Steelers out, right? So I got them.
Well, right now you got them out.
Yeah.
So who do you like? You like the Bills, possibly the Colts or Jaguars? You like the Texans more or less?
Less. Too many injuries at this point. So my last spot, I'd probably.
The Browns take the last spot.
Well, the Browns they're in the 5th spot right now, right? So Baltimore, Miami, Kansas City.
It's only 7. So it's got Browns, Bills, and then either the Colts or the Jaguars, right?
Right. Well, no, Colts or Jaguars. One of those win the division. So the division winners are Baltimore, Miami, Kansas City. Those are pretty much, for the most part, locked. And then for the South, it's either Jacksonville or Colts. One of those teams for sure is going to make it, but they take the 4th spot, whoever between those 2. 5th spot I'm giving to Cleveland. They're in 5th right now. Buffalo's 6th spot. I think they'll stay at the 6th spot. And then the 7th spot. The question is, will the loser of the NFC South, get that 7th spot, or will some team like Cincinnati or Pittsburgh take? I don't think Cincinnati. I think the Colts have a legitimate shot. Let's see who they play these next 2 weeks.
Will you discount the Raiders? Because the Raiders 7-8, and
they got the Raiders this week. They got the Raiders in Texas. So if they beat the Raiders. The Raiders are out.
Mm-hmm.
The Raiders win. The Raiders are still in it, but not a lot. They're not. They still got to keep winning.
Yeah, got to keep winning. They got to. I mean, if the Steelers need to win out, the Raiders definitely need to win out. The Broncos, I don't think they're in it anymore.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, so it's gonna be, if you're, a Colts fans, you're basically,
It's your season right here.
yeah.
All these teams, right?
Yeah.
You win out and then you're in. You don't have anything to complain about, anything to worry about. But you lose a game or two, then you're going to be in the outside looking in.
Ron, who do you like making it in the NFC?
Well, top teams for the most part: San Fran, Philly, Detroit. Those are locks, I think. I would throw Dallas in there too, and then NFC South. I'm going to give to Tampa. They won, I think, 4 straight, if I'm not mistaken, at 8-7. It's not a lock that they win the division just yet. Got to see who they play, but they're playing too well, I think, to blow it at this point, and not win that division. So they got the Saints and Panthers next. So if they win one of those games, they should clinch, I think, the NFC South. And then besides that, I got, you got the Rams, Seattle, who I think is going to win this week. That'll put them at 9-7. I think those will be the teams. I don't see the Vikings, Green Bay, Atlanta, even though they're all 7-8, the Saints. I don't see any of them overcoming any of the teams that are ahead of them.
I mean, the Vikings are definitely out. Injuries are just decimating them. The Packers, I mean, I don't know. Their schedule was so easy at the beginning of the year. That's why I had them winning that division. And then Jordan Love started the year bad, then they got better, and they finish out the season with the Vikings and the Bears. So if they get 2 wins, they finish the season on 9-8. Is that enough?
No. What if they finish with 2 losses?
If they finish 2 losses, then they're out.
Well, I bring that up because their coach was on my hot seat list. And I'm just curious if you feel if they finish at 7-10, does that get them fired?
I don't know, because this is Jordan Love's first year basically without having Aaron there. I don't know if that's, who would you fire, him or Arthur Smith?
I think they both should go, to be honest with you.
I just don't feel like with Arthur Smith and that quarterback carousel.
Yeah. Whose fault is that, though?
Yeah, he drafted Riddler, and he's terrible.
Yeah, well, this guy drafted, A-Rod's replacement. He didn't make the playoffs, and you had Rodgers, could have kept him there, right? Haven't finished his career there. He chose not to, or he decided to part ways, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it. Rodgers was your best chance to get back to the playoffs. Chose to go a different direction, and you missed the playoffs. That's questionable.
Would you rather them spend $50 million on Rodgers and make the playoffs, or $50 million without Rodgers and basically div it out into the team and have a better defense? The offense is getting better, I guess.
Rodgers, he took a pay cut, right?
He restructured his contract afterwards.
Yeah, but I think he would have been willing to do that for them.
Listen, to me, Rodgers is all about himself. I just can't see that. He will say, they didn't come talk to me, blah, blah, blah. They didn't do this, but we know there's no way Rodgers was restructuring his contract, especially with Green Bay. There's no way.
Either way, regardless, you had Rodgers or not, you as your coach, GM, your responsibility is to make sure your team's prepared, right? They drafted this guy 3-4 years ago, whatever it is now. And, you've been, at this point, you were pushing to get rid of Rodgers, it feels like. So that tells me that you felt ready to make the jump. You should, if you feel that confident, to me, you need to get in the playoffs then. At least get to the playoffs. So if they fall short, we'll see. I don't know. I'm just guessing here. I think the leash will be short. Maybe they give them another year. But if 2 years and they finish below 500 again this year and next year, why would you keep that whole thing going?
I mean, do you see them losing out 2 games against the Vikings and the Bears? I just don't see that.
Well, they might go 1-1. That keeps them under 500. The Bears are tough. Don't mess around and play the Bears and have Justin Fields rush for like 160 on you.
I mean, I just don't feel like with the Bears, they got Justin Fields with 1 foot out, with 1 foot in. The Vikings, we just talked about how injuries decimated their season. Yet they're in second place with the same record. So go figure.
Regardless, I think a lot of coaching decisions will be made like these next 2 weeks. Like there's coaches that are literally going to lose or keep their job depending on what happens these next.
So who you have? The Rams, Seattle, and then
that's it.
That's it.
Yeah. So Rams, Seattle, and those final spots. I got Dallas.
Dallas already has it locked up.
Yeah, Dallas, and then I got Tampa winning. I think they'll hold on to the South. The other teams, Detroit, Philly, San Fran, they're already locked.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I have the Rams losing this week, but that's going to be a tough loss for them if they do end up losing. I just feel like the Vikings are not doing enough. The Falcons are not doing enough. Obviously, the Saints, Carr is, one day he looks great, one game he looks awful. And the Packers, I mean, they should have not lost. Jordan Love should not be losing, especially if he's, Aaron's replacement. So I just, when I look at all the quarterbacks that can make the extra playoff spot, the only quarterback I like is the Green Bay Packers quarterback because he's playing well.
The Rams lose this week, they're out. I tell you that, because they got San Fran last week. So you want to make the playoffs, you better win this game and get in New York. You don't want to go to San Francisco with your season on the line.
On the line, yeah, that's tough. And then they have such a nice stadium, but they don't fill it up with Rams fans. So I don't know if it helps them to go on the road, or if it's worth to be at home and have the crowd not cheering for you. So I don't know what's better for them. Overall, what can you say? This is do or die for these teams this week, right?
Absolutely. So, all these teams are in the playoffs right now. This is the playoff.
Yeah, basically, yeah. It's like you lose, you stay. If you win, then you go on to the playoffs. You go on to the big tournament. So, Ron, what do you have to say for the Steelers fans out there? The ones that expected a better performance last week and they won that performance this week.
Hey, let's keep it rolling. Let's string a couple wins together. Whoever we throw out there, Mason or Kenny Pickett, this is going to be a tough matchup. Like I said, I got Seattle winning. Having said that, I think we can go in there, if any team can do it, and pull out a victory. We're going to need a lot of help, from the defense, and the defense is going to have some issues, I think, against Seattle's all their weapons. But let's go out there and just keep it positive, and let's see what we do.
Yeah, I think that the Steelers, I see Mike Tomlin having a winning season. What's your record now?
8-7.
8-7. Yeah, one of these games, whether Seattle or Baltimore, like you said, hopefully they're like resting people. I see, especially with Lamar, because he's actually gonna play a full season. Let's hope that he doesn't get bounced in the first round of the division. But hey, if you get a bye, then you don't have to worry about that. You just play everyone at home until you reach the Super Bowl. So yeah, I think their chances are, much, much better to lock up that playoff spot for the Steelers. And who knows? This might be like a NFC North. You got Baltimore, you got the Steelers, and you got the Cleveland making it into the playoffs. That's huge.
Yeah.
And if Burrow hadn't gotten hurt, maybe you have everyone. Yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah, we don't have much. I mean, that's it. Next week it'll be week 18.
Yeah, final week.
Final week of the season, and then we can speculate on what's going to happen with Bill Belichick. I mean, from what I'm reading, he's staying.
Yeah. They're playing hard, right? So
yeah,
it's not like they've given up. You can tell when teams just they mail it in the season.
And when I see the interviews after the games, everyone is like, hey, this is for Bill. Hey, I did it for Bill. This is for Bill. So they know that they're not going to make the playoffs. So they're playing hard. I know that some of the players are playing to get a contract. Some of the players may not be there 2024, so who knows? But we as fans, we like, oh man, I hope this team tanks so they can get a better draft. But I feel like this team is winning. So, hey, keep it going. I'm not mad at them. I'm not mad at them at all. And then we'll have our draft show, much later down the line. Yeah, that's about pretty much it. In that case, I say peace.
Hey guys, thanks again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Any questions or comments, feel free to hit us up on shutyourmouthpodcast@gmail.com. That's shutympodcast@gmail.com. You can also hit us on Twitter or on Instagram @SYM Podcast. Thanks again.